The Apex Accord had ruled the galaxy for millennia. They were the apex predators, a coalition of the most brutal, evolved, and dominant species ever to exist. No civilization had survived their first hunt. They did not conquer, they eradicated. That was, until they encountered humans. Nyx-Syrek warlord Zyrek Kal stood aboard his command ship, staring at the rotating blue planet before him. Primitive, he scoffed, clicking his mandibles. They build with stone and metal, not organic lattice. They war amongst themselves. They are weak. A second Nyx-Syrek warrior, Varlek, turned his slitted eyes toward the warlord. Yet the Accord has deemed them a necessary extermination. Their numbers expand too quickly. They adapt. If left unchecked, they could be disruptive. Zyrek Kal let out a guttural growl. Disruptive? You speak as if they are a threat. He flexed his claws, their black chitin gleaming under the ship's artificial light. We have hunted their kind before. Mammals. Soft, slow, breakable. A signal flickered across the holodisplay. The first hunting squads had landed in New Europa, a human colony. The massacre would be swift. Zyrek Kal watched with satisfaction as the Nyx-Syrek warriors descended, their cloaked forms slipping through the night. Humans had no natural defenses against creatures of their caliber. The transmission cut out. Frowning, Zyrek Kal activated the holodisplay. Static. No response from the hunting teams. He clicked his mandibles, irritated. Varlek, status update. A moment passed before a garbled, fragmented voice came through. It was screaming. They're everywhere, ambush, our own signals. The line went dead. For the first time in his long, violent life, Zyrek Kal felt something unfamiliar, uncertainty. Gabriel Kane crouched behind a slab of reinforced concrete, pulse rifle steady. The enemy had walked straight into their trap. Confirm kill count, he muttered into his comm. 32 down, a voice crackled back. 3 captured. One of them, well, you'll want to see this, sir. Kane's boots hit the ground hard as he made his way to the containment zone. Inside, under heavy guard, a Nyx-Syrek warrior lay twitching, its exoskeleton riddled with wounds that shouldn't have been possible. How the hell did you take this thing alive? Kane asked, stepping closer. The soldier guarding the creature smirked. It's afraid, sir. Kane narrowed his eyes. Afraid? The creature's mandibles quivered. Its slitted eyes flickered with something primal. You are not prey, it rasped. You are wrong. Kane crouched beside the dying beast. What's wrong, big guy? Didn't think your little hunting trip would go this way? The Nyx-Syrek convulsed. We smell our own. But they are not us. They hunt like us. Kane exchanged a look with his second-in-command. That's the point. The creature shuddered again. Then, with a final, gurgling breath, it died. Zyrek Kal's claws dug into the command console. Impossible. His forces were the hunters. No species had ever turned the hunt against them. Prepare full invasion, he snarled. Burn this world. Leave nothing behind. The fleet moved into position, weapons primed. But as they began their descent, something was wrong. Sir, Varlek said, voice suddenly sharp. I'm detecting. An explosion rocked the command ship. Alarms blared. The holodisplay flickered, revealing something unthinkable. The humans had infiltrated their fleet. Inside the Nyx-Syrek warships, emergency beacon signals activated. Their own technology, rewired. Their tracking pheromones, corrupted. Now, every single Nyx-Syrek warrior in the fleet was being hunted by their own kind. And the humans? The humans were watching it happen. Zyrek Kal roared in fury as chaos erupted around him. What have you done? A new voice crackled through his ship's comm system. Gabriel Kane. We did what you do best, bug boy. His voice was calm, amused. We learned. Adapted. And now? We hunt. The transmission cut. And then, the slaughter began. The Apex Accord had never known fear. They had been the undisputed rulers of the galaxy for thousands of cycles, carving their dominance into the very fabric of history. They were the top of the food chain, the predators against whom all others were measured. Until now. Until humans. Until the day the hunters became the hunted. Zyrek Kal gripped the edge of his war table, his claws carving deep gouges into the metal surface. His entire hunting detachment had been wiped out in less than an hour. Not decimated. Not wounded. Gone. The humans hadn't fought for survival. They hadn't fled or pleaded or crumbled like every other species that came before them. They had set a trap. A primitive species shouldn't have been capable of turning the Accord's own hunting tactics against them. It defied every instinct, every lesson etched into their DNA. Yet, here they were. His second-in-command, Varlek, trembled beside him. Our fleet is compromised. Human saboteurs have infiltrated the command structures. Our own warriors are killing each other. His voice was tight, on the edge of hysteria. They used our own pheromones against us. They made us hunt ourselves. Zyrek Kal turned slowly, his eyes burning with raw fury. And you're telling me this now? The ship rocked as another detonation erupted through the command decks. Smoke filled the air. The humans were inside. Seal the bridge. Zyrek Kal roared, slamming his fist into the command panel. The bulkheads slammed shut, locking the room off from the chaos beyond. The Apex Accord's warlord inhaled deeply, steadying himself. This was salvageable. The humans were primitive, reckless, chaotic. They didn't have the discipline, the coordination, the sheer genetic perfection of the Nyx Syrek. And yet, for the first time in his life, Zyrek Kal realized something he had never considered possible. The Nyx Syrek were not the most dangerous creatures in the universe. Sir! Varlek gasped, his mandibles clicking in barely restrained panic. They're on the bridge. The emergency lights flickered. Shadows shifted. Zyrek Kal turned sharply, his predatory gaze locking onto the figure emerging from the smoke. A human. Not armored. Not augmented. Not one of the weak, simpering creatures the Accord had seen in their initial observations. This one was different. Gabriel Kane stepped forward, boots thudding against the floor. His rifle was slung over his back, his hands relaxed at his sides. No helmet. No visible weapons drawn. He wasn't afraid. Zyrek Kal bared his fangs. You dare board my warship, human? Kane tilted his head slightly. You dared to invade my planet, he said, voice steady, almost amused. You don't like it when the tables turn, do you? The Apex warlord lunged, claws slashing forward in a blur of speed that had torn apart countless prey before. But Kane moved first. A flash of metal. A shift in weight. Zyrek Kal's own momentum was used against him. He slammed into the ground. Kane pressed a boot to the warlord's throat, pistol drawn and leveled at his head. Fast, Kane muttered. But predictable. Varlek lunged from the side, screeching, his bladed limbs aiming to gut the human where he stood. Kane didn't even look. The gun in his hand fired once. Varlek's head snapped back. His body hit the ground, motionless. Zyrek Kal froze. This wasn't possible. Humans didn't have natural weapons. They weren't supposed to be stronger, faster, better. You're wondering how, Kane said, his voice a blade's edge of amusement. How your perfect predator species got outplayed by what you thought was prey. Zyrek Kal struggled against the weight on his throat. You are an anomaly, he hissed. A mistake of evolution. Kane leaned in slightly. Yeah? Then why am I standing here, and why are you on the ground? The Apex warlord snarled in rage, his body twisting like a serpent. He struck with the speed of a viper, but Kane was already moving. He sidestepped effortlessly, driving his elbow into Zyrek Kal's skull, forcing him back onto the ground. You don't get it, do you? Kane's voice was low, edged with something dark. Something lethal. You think you're the top of the food chain because no one ever fought back. Because every species you've encountered played by your rules. But we don't play by rules. Zyrek Kal spat blood, eyes burning. You think this changes anything? The Accord will burn your world. Your species will be erased. Kane chuckled. See, that's what I love about you apex bastards. You talk real big for guys who keep losing. The ship rocked again, harder this time. The apex warlord could feel it now, his own fleet was crumbling. His forces slaughtered. Kane tapped his earpiece. Status? A voice crackled through. Enemy fleets in full retreat. Some stragglers trying to regroup, but the orbital defense grid is eating them alive. Good. Kane looked back at the warlord. Hear that? Your people are running. Zyrek Kal's vision swam with rage. This couldn't be happening. It wasn't possible. His species had never lost a war. Until now. Kane lifted his pistol. You don't need to understand why you lost. You just need to accept that this hunt is over. Zyrek Kal bared his fangs. Kill me, and the Accord will never stop hunting you. Kane smirked. I know. The shot rang out. The apex warlord stopped breathing. Kane exhaled, holstering his pistol as he turned toward the bulkhead. His men were already clearing the remaining corridors, eliminating the last Nyx Zyrek on board. The warship was theirs. He tapped his comm fleet command, this is Kane. We're done here. Send and clean up. A voice responded. Confirmed. What's the status of the enemy leader? Kane stepped over Zyrek Kal's corpse. Dead. A pause. Then, good. Kane turned to one of his men. Strip the data cores. Anything useful, I want it yesterday. Sir, the soldier said, shifting slightly. What about the bodies? Kane glanced back at Zyrek Kal, at the blood seeping into the metal floor. Burn them. He walked away without another word. The Apex Accord had ruled the galaxy through fear, through dominance, through absolute predatory instinct. But humans were something else. Not prey. Not predators. Something worse. And now, the galaxy would have to learn what hunted the hunters. The Apex Accord had never tasted failure, and now the taste was bitter, like ash in the mouths of those who remained. The fleet was in ruins, their warlord dead, their elite hunters slaughtered. The once unshakable pillars of galactic dominance were crumbling, and it wasn't because of a superior species, or some cosmic anomaly. No. It was because of humans. Gabriel Kane stood on the bridge of the captured Nyx Zyrek warship, watching the chaos unfold across the shattered enemy fleet. Status, he muttered. Enemy formations breaking apart, his second in command, Carter, replied through the comm their flagship just jumped to light speed, but we got a tracker on it. They're running, sir. Kane smirked. They should. Across the holodisplay, the once mighty Apex fleet was fracturing. What was once an impenetrable wall of death now looked like prey scattering in every direction. They're not regrouping, Carter continued, they're retreating. Kane turned from the display and glanced down at Zyrek Kal's corpse, still sprawled across the cold floor, his lifeless eyes staring into nothing. Their mighty warlord had fallen in seconds. You really thought this was your war, didn't you? Kane muttered under his breath. Nah. This was just an extermination. Sir, Carter's voice snapped him back. We've intercepted a transmission from the remaining Accord forces. Audio only. Patch it through. The comms crackled to life, and then came the voice, deep, guttural, but shaken. This is Overlord Vierun of the Apex Accord. We acknowledge the fall of the Nyx Zyrek leadership. We seek terms. Silence fell over the bridge. Kane narrowed his eyes. Terms? The Apex Accord had never surrendered before. They didn't negotiate. They didn't seek peace. They're stalling, Carter muttered. buying time to regroup. Obviously, Kane replied. They're desperate. And desperate predators make mistakes. He tapped the console. Open a direct link. The signal connected. On the hollow screen, a towering reptilian figure with blackened scales and piercing gold eyes glared at Kane. Overlord Vierun, leader of the Apex Accord's High Council. You are Gabriel Kane, the Overlord growled. The one who put your warlord down like a rabid dog? Kane finished for him. Yeah, that was me. Vierun's eyes narrowed. You do not understand what you have done. The Apex Accord has ruled for thousands of cycles. Yeah, Kane interrupted, stretching his arms. You ruled, you killed, you wiped out entire species because that's just how it worked. Right? And now here we are. You're sitting in the wreckage of what was supposed to be an easy hunt, and I'm sitting here listening to you beg for terms. Vierun's voice deepened. You believe you have won? Believe? Kane chuckled. Oh, no. I know we've won. We made you bleed. We made you run. That's not something apex predators do, is it? The Overlord's jaw clenched. The Accord does not kneel. If you think this war is over, you are mistaken. We will burn your world. We will. Kane cut the signal. Sir? Carter raised a brow. He's bluffing, Kane said. If they had anything left, they wouldn't be wasting time trying to scare us. They'd be attacking. Then what's our move? Kane exhaled slowly. We go for the throat. Carter smirked. Full planetary assault? Kane nodded. We take the fight straight to their homeworld. We show them what it's like to be hunted. The bridge fell silent. Every soldier in the room knew what that meant. No turning back. No mercy. Carter grinned. Then let's finish this. Within minutes, the human fleet had begun their advance. The last remnants of the Apex Accord scattered like broken prey. But there would be no escape. The hunters had become the hunted, and Gabriel Kane had no intention of stopping. This war had only just begun. The Apex Accord had always been the predator, the ruler of the food chain, the force that dictated survival across the galaxy. No species had ever fought back and lived to tell about it. No civilization had ever turned the hunt against them. Until now. Gabriel Kane stood at the helm of the human fleet as it advanced through the remains of the Apex-controlled territories. The once feared Nyx-Cyrek strongholds lay in ruin, their war fleets shattered, their warriors dead or in hiding. There was no retreat left for them, no fallback position. They had ruled with brutality and fear. And now, they were the ones afraid. Fleet is in position, Carter's voice came through the comm. Their last stronghold is on the planet's surface. Looks like they're digging in. Kane smirked. Let them. The fleet descended, engines burning through the atmosphere of Cyrek Prime, the Apex Accord's last planetary stronghold. On the ground, the remaining Apex warriors braced for war. They had fortified their defenses, their once arrogant war cries turning to something more desperate, more uncertain. But Kane had no interest in a prolonged siege. This wasn't a battle. This was an eradication. Deploy the drones, he ordered. From the human fleet, thousands of autonomous war machines descended like a plague of locusts. Within seconds, the Apex lines began to break. Their strongest warriors were cut down, their defensive turrets were overloaded, hacked, and turned against them. Kane watched from orbit as their entire planetary defense system collapsed in under 15 minutes. Carter's voice came through again. Sir, we're picking up a transmission. One of their leaders is trying to open negotiations. Kane exhaled, his fingers tapping against the console. He had seen what the Apex Accord had done to other species. There had never been negotiations. There had never been mercy. Patch them through. The holodisplay flickered to life, revealing a battered and bloodied Apex Overlord, Vierun. The same leader who had threatened to burn Earth just days before. His breathing was ragged. His soldiers could be heard screaming in the background. You, humans. Vieron's voice trembled with something foreign to his kind. You are not prey. You are something else. Something worse. Kane tilted his head. Yeah. You're just figuring that out? You don't have to do this. Vieron's tone had changed. No more bravado. No more arrogance. The Apex Accord is finished. We? Finished? Kane scoffed. You don't get to decide when this ends. You didn't let the civilizations you slaughtered surrender, did you? You wiped them out. You turned entire worlds into hunting grounds. Vieron's throat tightened. You ruled through fear, Kane continued, stepping forward. But now you're the ones who can't sleep at night. Now you're the ones who check the shadows, wondering when we're coming. Now you know what it's like to be hunted. The Apex Overlord's shoulders sagged. He knew. It was over. What do you want? He whispered. Kane smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Simple. The human fleet's orbital cannons fired. On the surface, Zyrek Prime erupted into flames. Cities burned. Apex strongholds crumbled. Their last warriors died screaming. Kane stood motionless as the holodisplay flickered out. There was nothing left to say. The Apex Accord had ruled for thousands of years, but not anymore. Now, there was only humanity. Carter turned to him, eyes unreadable. What's next, sir? Kane stared into the void. We find the next threat, he said. And we remind the galaxy why it should fear us.